To my adopted daughter, Skylar Morgan, I leave Whitmore Industries, Whitmore Estate, and all controlling shares.
What adopted daughter? Dad would never!
Sit down, Ryan. Let the man finish before you embarrass us all.
Attorney Grant calmly slid a folder onto the table. Ryan snatched it immediately with hands shaking. Nobody noticed the second envelope hidden beneath the adoption papers. The adoption wasn't Brandon Whitmore's biggest secret. Not even close. Hello, Everluxe viewers. Welcome back to your #1 storytelling platform, where ambition wears designer suits and secrets hide behind mansion walls. Today's story follows a dying billionaire who leaves his empire to the last person his family expected. But before we begin, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another unforgettable story. Now let's dive right into today's story. 2 months earlier, Skylar Morgan used to believe hard work could fix almost anything. Maybe that was naive, or maybe it was survival. Every morning she woke before sunrise. At night, she came home exhausted, and somehow she still found time to study. Business textbooks covered the tiny apartment she shared with her mother and younger sister. Most people saw a struggling young woman, but Skylar saw a future she hadn't reached yet. Then life happened. Their mother abandoned them for another man. Bills piled up. The university dreams vanished, and Skylar dropped out before graduation. Not because she wanted to, but because somebody had to keep Tessa fed. That was when Monica showed up with an opportunity, or at least that's what she called it. Easy money. Nobody gets hurt. Skylar should have walked away. Instead, she listened, and one bad decision changed everything. The operation secretly belonged to Richard Whitmore, but no one knew this. That was how Richard liked it. While the Whitmore family posed for magazine covers and charity galas, Richard operated from the shadows. Girls who got caught carrying packages for his network were given choices that weren't really choices. Prison or the eclipse. Monica accepted her fate, but Skylar never did. 1 month passed, and she only followed orders when she had no choice. But inside, something stubborn refused to die. During breaks, she reads old business magazines she had hidden beneath dressing room benches, and one face appeared again and again. Olivia Whitmore. Elegant. Powerful. Untouchable. Skylar would stare at those glossy covers for hours. One night, she traced a finger over Olivia's photograph and whispered, "One day, maybe just one day, I will become someone like her." She didn't know how close she was, or how dangerous that dream would become. Across the city, Brandon Whitmore sat alone inside his penthouse office. Cancer had stolen weight from his frame, energy from his voice, and time from his future. But it hadn't stolen his instincts, and his instincts were screaming. Something was wrong. Whitmore Industries looked successful from the outside. Inside, it was bleeding. Ryan spent money faster than departments could earn it. Margaret fought over influence instead of solving problems. And Richard always seemed to be exactly where questions disappeared. And that bothered Brandon a lot. Late one evening, he found what he'd been looking for. A trail, small transfers, hidden accounts, shell companies. At first it looked meaningless. Then the pattern emerged. Brandon stared at the screen. His chest tightened. The money trail led to the eclipse, then to Richard, his own brother. Brandon leaned back slowly. For a moment, he simply sat there. His empire wasn't just being stolen from. It was helping fund criminal operations and ruining the lives of young people. All connected to the Whitmore name, a name Brandon had spent 40 years building. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he felt ashamed. At dawn, Skylar burst through her apartment door. "Tessa!" she called out. No answer. "Tessa, I'm home." Still nothing. The silence felt wrong immediately. Tessa's cracked phone sat abandoned on the table. Skylar picked it up, her hands shaking. Fear settled into her chest like ice. Tessa wasn't just her sister. She was the reason Skylar kept going. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Skylar answered instantly. "Where is she?" A distorted voice chuckled. "Tessa's safe. For now. You've been asking too many questions lately, and it's really hard to keep you in check. Remember who runs this city. One wrong move, and your sister disappears." The line went dead. For a second, Skylar stood frozen, then anger replaced fear. Whoever had taken Tessa was about to learn something. Desperate people stopped being afraid. The Eclipse nightclub looked different from the outside. Expensive, exclusive, respectable. That was the illusion. Inside was another world entirely. Brandon Whitmore walked through the entrance without warning anyone. The deeper he went, the uglier things became. Fear, control, broken people pretending they weren't broken. Then shouting erupted down the corridor. A young woman was fighting 3 security guards, not trying to escape, trying to get through. "Let me go!" Skylar slammed an elbow into one man's ribs. Another grabbed her arms, but she kicked free. A third shoved her against the wall. Still she fought. Brandon watched for several seconds. Then something unexpected happened. He admired her. Most people surrendered eventually. This woman refused, especially when she was losing. "Release her. Now!" The room froze and nobody moved. Brandon's voice hardened. "I wasn't asking." The guards immediately stepped back. Then a faint cry echoed from behind a locked door. Skylar froze. Everything else disappeared. "Tessa!" She knew that voice. She ran toward the door, but a guard stepped in front of her. Brandon slammed his cane against the floor. The sound echoed through the corridor. "Open it!" Nobody argued this time. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Inside, Tessa sat curled against the wall, terrified, crying, alive. "Skylar!" The girl launched herself forward. Skylar caught her. For several seconds, neither could speak. They simply held each other, tightly, as if letting go might make the nightmare return. Brandon watched quietly. Something shifted inside him. His own family had spent years fighting over money, power, shares, control. But this woman would burn the world down for her sister. The difference was impossible to ignore. Eventually, Skylar looked up. Her face was bruised, eyes red, still defiant, still dangerous. "Who are you?" she asked. Brandon studied her for a moment. Then a faint smile appeared. "Someone who's about to make a very unpopular decision." Brandon turned toward the exit, then looked back. "Come with me." Skylar hesitated. Every instinct told her not to trust rich men, especially powerful ones. But Tessa was safe, and for reasons she couldn't explain. This felt like the beginning of something. She squeezed her sister's hand, then followed him. Over the next few weeks, Brandon taught Skylar everything he could. Company reports, negotiation tactics, the difference between people who wanted power and people who deserved it. One night, exhausted and struggling to breathe, he looked at her across the hospital room. "Never show fear," he told her, voice raspy. "They smell it like sharks. Be careful of Olivia. She's smarter than my sons." Skylar nodded, absorbing everything like a sponge. Brandon continued. "My family thinks money makes them strong." He gave a weak laugh. "They're about to learn otherwise." Skylar swallowed. "Why are you doing this?" Brandon looked away. "They've spent their whole lives waiting for me to die." Brandon's eyes darkened. "They're about to learn I hate losing more than I hate dying." The week after, Brandon's funeral was a masterpiece of fake grief. Black umbrellas filled the cemetery. Reporters lined the gates. Cameras flashed as Ryan Whitmore stood before them, eyes red enough to look convincing. "My father was a visionary," he said, voice cracking at just the right moments. His legacy will continue through us. Behind him, his wife Olivia almost rolled her eyes. Afterwards, nobody mentioned Brandon. Ryan was already talking about succession. I mean, it's obvious, right? He said. I've been preparing for this for years. You've been preparing? His mother laughed dryly. That's adorable. Ryan glared. What does that mean? It means your father barely trusted you to water a plant. Olivia looked out the window. Can we not do this today? She asked. Something wasn't right, but she couldn't explain why. Brandon Whitmore hadn't built an empire by leaving loose ends, and if he'd spent his final weeks hiding something, it was probably dangerous. 24 hours later, the family gathered inside the Whitmore mansion. Attorney Grant stood at the head of the long table. The atmosphere felt strange, too tense, too expectant. Ryan sat back confidently. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. Finally, everything he'd always believed belonged to him. Grant opened the will. To Ryan Whitmore, I leave $1. Silence. Ryan blinked. What? Grant continued. To Margaret Whitmore, I leave $1. Margaret froze. And to Richard, $1. Ryan stood abruptly. Okay, enough. Grant didn't look up. To my adopted daughter, Skylar Morgan, I leave Whitmore Industries, Whitmore Estate, and all controlling shares. This is insane, Margaret shot to her feet. He can't do this. Richard looked genuinely shaken. There has to be some mistake. Grant calmly slid the adoption papers across the table. There is no mistake. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Years of resentment hung between them, things neither would ever admit aloud. 3 days later, the first boardroom meeting with the new CEO, none of them could afford to miss. Ryan arrived first, almost cheerful. This should be fun, Margaret rolled her eyes, watching a nobody embarrass herself. Oh, she won't survive 10 minutes. After a while, Ryan laughed. Told you. She wouldn't dare to show up. People like her don't become CEOs. They clean offices. Margaret smiled. Smart girl. She finally realized she's doomed. The room chuckled. Then the boardroom doors opened. Skylar Morgan walked in with Attorney Grant. She wore a dark, tailored suit. Her shoulders were straight. Her expression calm, not nervous, not intimidated, and somehow that was worse. Ryan's smile disappeared. Skylar crossed the room without looking at anyone and headed straight to Brandon's chair. The chair looked like it belonged to her. That irritated Ryan more than he expected. Olivia recovered first. Skylar, it's lovely to finally meet you. We're pleased to have you join us. A polite smile. Perfect. Practiced. Skylar looked at her. For a second, she remembered all those magazine covers. Back then, Olivia had seemed larger than life. Now she was just another person sitting across the table. Funny how quickly dreams change. Skylar tilted her head slightly. Join you. Who said I'm here to join you? I'm here to lead you. Nobody spoke. Even Margaret looked stunned. The room went deathly silent. Skylar scanned their shocked faces, feeling a surge of satisfaction mixed with cold determination. Let's get straight to business. The Q3 marketing spend is up 28% with zero ROI growth. Ryan, care to explain why we're burning millions on campaigns that our own data shows are failing? Ryan's face tightened. That's not. And logistics, Skylar continued, flipping pages. We're losing 12% on supply chain inefficiencies. Margaret, your division, correct? I've reviewed the contracts. They're bloated with kickbacks. Margaret interrupted sharply. You have no right. I have every right, Skylar shot back, voice rising with controlled fire. Brandon Whitmore trusted me with this because he saw what I see now, rot from within. The Whitmores shifted uncomfortably as Skylar dismantled one failure after another with facts, projections, and sharp questions. Ryan stood, fists clenched. "You think you can just walk in here and lecture us? We built this empire." "No," Skylar replied, turning to meet his gaze. "You leached off it." Olivia finally spoke, her tone measured. "You're bolder than I expected." Unlike the others, she wasn't angry. "You've clearly memorized the numbers." Skylar met her gaze. "I didn't memorize the numbers. I understand them." Olivia smiled. "Numbers are easy. Making decisions when the company starts bleeding is harder. Anyone can point out problems, Skylar. But can you solve them?" For the first time since entering the room, Skylar faced a real challenge. The only person in the room intelligent enough to see beyond the inheritance. Skylar nodded slowly. "Good question." She opened another folder. "I didn't spend the last few days preparing excuses." She slid a detailed restructuring proposal across the table. "I spent them preparing solutions." Even Olivia looked surprised. Skylar closed the folder. "You know what's funny?" Nobody answered. "When I first got here, I thought this company was dying because of bad decisions." Her eyes moved slowly from Ryan to Margaret, and finally to Richard. "Now I'm starting to think some of you have worked very hard to make sure it stayed that way." Richard's expression hardened. "Careful." Skylar smiled. "That's exactly what I'm planning to be." She stood up gracefully, gathering her documents. "With that, this meeting is over. Everyone should get to work on what we've discussed." Skylar walked out of the boardroom without looking back, leaving nothing but stunned silence behind her. The entire Whitmore family sat frozen. The woman they wanted to watch fail had just walked in and taken complete control. But the real war is just beginning. Brandon Whitmore chose a stranger over his own children. Was he right? Or should blood always come first? Let us know in the comments. Like this video, subscribe for more gripping stories of power, revenge, and redemption, and hit the notification bell so you never miss when the next empire falls. Share your thoughts. What moral question should we explore next?